Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Welcome as well to the Cayenne Turbo from the 2010s. This car was built in 2010. It's the second generation of Cayenne, and at the time it was the daddy. There was no Turbo S in 2010 as far as I'm aware. So if you wanted the best Cayenne, this was the one you would get. The way I'm going to do today's video is going to be slightly different, because I do imagine that the nitty and gritty of the interior is a bit on the boring side, so it's more towards the people who are actually really interested. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drive it in multiple scenarios, and I'll show you the interior and all the features afterwards. Well, let's find out. When I put it into sport mode, it automatically drops the car, it puts the suspension in sport mode as well, and the gearbox, it becomes a little bit more eager to hold on to gears, although perhaps not as much as it should. This car is very quick. It's got 500 horsepower. Yes, it weighs as much as the moon, but still 500 horsepower is no figure to slouch, as are the 700 Newton meters of torquey torque. Yeah, brakes. I mean, you can feel like you are braking a very heavy car. Corners, it's in third gear, holding on to third gear. Yeah. Okay, so the car, these are some relatively open corners. The car does behave well. This road surface that I'm in right now is very smooth, so I can use the suspension in sport mode. Yeah, that's what 500 horsepower gets you. Overtaking power. Okay, so right now the gearbox is in automatic mode, and the car can carry quite a lot of speed through corners, yes, but it doesn't really make me want to go fast. I don't know if that makes sense. Right now it's in 6th gear. It shouldn't be in 6th gear. So the gearbox does find itself oftentimes in the wrong gear, then it has to downshift. So the gearbox, it's not that well calibrated, to be honest. The engine has tremendous amounts of power and torque, but it is often let down by the gearbox. You could argue that, oh, but you're driving it in automatic. Yes, I am, for two reasons. One, because I want to test how it is to drive in automatic, because the PDK, it's incredible in automatic mode as well. This Tiptronic is good for driving slowly, pulling your way smoothly, but it is not ideal for spirited driving. And the second reason is because Porsche decided to give us these silly little buttons, which are an excuse for paddles. These aren't paddles, these are switches. For example, right now I'm in 3rd gear doing 2,200 RPM. I'm gonna ask for a 2nd gear. Now it's there. It is a slow gearbox, unfortunately. But the thing is, the character of the car, maybe it doesn't need a very quick gearbox. Okay, I'm in 2nd gear. Let's go. I gotta remind my... yeah. buttons. Second gear, please. Give me second gear. It doesn't give me second gear when I need it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this short. It is not a pleasant experience, or a pleasurable experience, let's say, to drive this car fast if you want to control what the car is doing, if you want to have some sort of control over the gearbox. And then there's the fact that this car weighs over 2 tons. It is a tall car. Gearbox, it is to drive fast. It is a letdown. It doesn't give you the gears that you want when you want them. In automatic mode, it often finds itself searching for the correct gear because it's not in the correct gear, and you're always aware that you're driving a huge car. Lastly, I want to try suspension. Although from what I could tell up until this point, it's doing a relatively good job of controlling the mass. I cannot say that it leans too much. If you're running late to drop the kids off at school, you're gonna get there quick. You're just not gonna have great fun. You're not gonna feel like you're very connected. Yeah, the corner is very flat. It's just very numb, and the gearbox, it's not good. Let me downshift. It doesn't let me downshift when I want to downshift. Why? This engine, it pulls so hard, and then the whole package is sort of let down. The whole package is sort of let down because of the gearbox. I mean, you're driving an over 2-ton car. It's never going to feel. It's never going to feel like the most nimble thing on planet Earth. But yeah, it doesn't give me the gear that I need to have. You have 500 horsepower, 700 Newton meters. You have Porsche DNA here, and the car is very fast. It can carry good amounts of speed through the corners. It just doesn't feel like you're doing something right. It feels like it doesn't belong here, to be honest. It feels like it does not want to be driven quickly on one of these roads. On the other hand, I've driven a Macan diesel on these very roads, and I found it to be far more pleasurable than this. It really doesn't feel like it wants to do this type of work. So that's why I'm taking it out of sport mode. Yeah, the car has so much power. It's just a shame that the gearbox just cannot keep up with the power. It's got good amounts of grip. It doesn't have much feeling. It's tremendously filtered because this is supposed to be a comfy SUV that happens to have 500 horsepower, and it's called the Turbo. I do wonder if the GTS is better suited for this type of driving. Nonetheless, it's still over 2 tons, and the gearbox is the same unless they've programmed it differently. The gearbox it is a letdown driving quickly. I'm glad you've asked. I'm driving on a very, very poor surface right now, just heading into town. And this type of driving is where I do think that this car excels, which is regular old driving in bad tarmac, keeping the occupants very comfortable, keeping the occupant very well air-conditioned, because the air conditioning has been flawless as well. I don't know if the camera is showing you quite well. This road is very, very bad actually, and the car is in comfort mode. It's in normal ride height right now. And the fact is that apart from the occasional jolt that you get, let's see here, no, not really, but apart from the occasional jolt that you get on very sharp bumps or when you're going slightly faster than you should, the car does an incredible job at ironing out imperfections in the road and keeping the occupants super, super comfortable. Now, I should mention that The only other car that I've driven, it is a competitor to this car, is the Range Rover Sport SVR. However, the one that I drove was far more recent than this was. This car is now 15 years old, so it is 15-year-old technology. But I do remember that that car was incredibly comfortable. It had more power than this, it had more technology than this, it also probably had Range Rover reliability. However, I do think that it was better at being a comfortable ride than this car is. It was in Dubai, so I wasn't really able to try it driving on winding roads, but I do remember that the air suspension felt a bit more comfortable. And do bear in mind that this car is on 21-inch and that one was probably on 50-inch wheels, which is the common wheel size these days. 15 years ago, to have a 21-inch wheel, that was not that common. Despite that, it is still very comfortable. There's a speed bump right here. I'm gonna go over it. It's probably going to be fine. However, as I said, so I went here a little bit faster than I should have. I was doing around 25 kilometers per hour. What I do notice is that when you go really slow, the suspension does become far more supple. Perhaps since you're going a little bit faster, the suspension does tighten up, but I did notice that already. This car has double glazed windows. The windscreen, these windows to the sides, I do think that every single window is double glazed. It gives you a very nice acoustic comfort level, so you're not hearing noises from outside. You go past people mowing their lawn and you can barely hear it. It does make for a very pleasant experience. Maneuverability. This car is also quite maneuverable in the sense that controls are relatively light. You have a nice view to the outside. However, I do find that some cars you do feel like they shrink around you. For some reason, you're just driving them normally and it's like the car is far smaller than what it appears. This car does seem relatively big from the outside, and I cannot say that it feels like it shrinks around you. I do feel like I am driving a big car. I am very much aware of its dimensions, but I still guess that you'll get used to it eventually. Driving quickly, I was very critical of the gearbox because, in all honesty, it is bad. When you want to drive quickly, it is bad. Where I can redeem this gearbox, where I can pat it on its shoulder, is at being a regular automatic gearbox. I'm now in stop and go traffic. The gearbox is tremendously smooth, as torque converter gearboxes are. Most of the time it chooses the right gear for you. You can barely feel any gear changes, so it is a very good gearbox for this type of driving. And that brings me again to my discovery, which is this is a 500 horsepower SUV, the daddy of the Porsche lineup at the time. And I would expect it to be a bit better driving quickly or have a little bit more feeling. It doesn't. Driving slowly, it is a good tool. This engine, it is a tremendous power plant. Driving slow, it does a wonderful job. Doing regular city driving, and the car feels, I mean, it feels like it belongs here. It is relatively sad to say that a Porsche with 500 horsepower, it belongs in a city, but it is the fact of the matter. It is very good at being this type of daily driver. And I do guess that soccer moms use this car thoroughly for their soccer mom duties. I have found that this car has a very nice turning radius. So I'm just here, I want to turn around, let's say. Yeah. It is, so for a big car with four-wheel drive, I do think that it does have a lovely turning radius. Lastly, let's see if it is easy to park or not. This parking space is plenty big. It does have a backup camera with graphics from 15 years ago, so it is relatively okay. The mirror does tilt down, but I don't know if it's just me, but having wheels so big on an SUV kind of defeats the purpose. I am constantly scared of damaging my wheels, which is, I mean, it is a shame, right? But provided that you find a parking space big enough and you don't mind dinging your wheels every now and then, it is a very easy to park car. Visibility outside, it is very nice as well. So it does tick plenty of boxes when it comes to driving slowly and just doing regular life stuff. I do not feel like it is the best at everyday driving. I do think that it is slightly compromised because you are getting a 500 horsepower turbo. I do think that, at least so far. Now that's a coincidence. We are now just entering a motorway, so let's see how it behaves doing motorway driving. Power. Yeah, it's always nice to have good power. Okay, so let's keep to the speed limit. Very, very quiet. You do hear some wind noise, some whistling that I do think comes from the wing mirrors. But other than that, we are doing 115 more or less. The car is in 8th gear, doing 1600 RPM. So you can hear that there's an engine over there working. Yes, it's not as quiet as a Tesla. There's a 4.8 liter V8 up front. However, in terms of overall noises, drones, all of that, the car is super, super quiet. The car right now, it's in normal mode, suspension-wise. I think it goes lower at 140 or 150. But other than that, it's perfect. Now, let's say we need to overtake. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It's very, very good actually. Just doing motorway driving, it is very good, and you have all the power that you could ever want to overtake in your de-restricted Autobahn. You could do long, long trips in this car on the motorway, no problem whatsoever. Let's drop the car down a little bit. See if something changes. Might be slightly less comfortable. Yeah, I think at normal ride height it is a bit more wallowy, but it is more supple, at least from what I can tell. So to answer your question, it is very good at motorway driving. Well, for a car that's 15 years old, that has done nearly 100,000 kilometers, I can say that this car held up very well throughout the years. I have no idea of what type of maintenance this car has had from previous owners. I do know that my friend bought this car relatively recently and that he hasn't been required to do much maintenance when it comes to actually keep the car looking fresh. This car is fully covered in leather everywhere, even in the door pockets, which is something I do not recall ever seeing. And the leather does look very, very good. There are some nicks here and there. Overall, the whole interior is in great condition. There's no scratches on the center console. Everything is holding up pretty darn well. And I do think that it is a testament to the quality. Now, I do think that the leather on the dash is sort of bubbling right here, which is unfortunately a thing with these cars. And when they sit in the sun for some reason, so the leather does tend to shrink. But I have seen cases, even with the most recent Cayennes, where the leather dash is a pain point. Coming back to this car, everything looks super pristine. The seats, they have aged tremendously well. This seat, it does not look like it has done 100,000 kilometers. I can say that in terms of build quality, it is very nice. Rattles, there are basically no rattles. There is one or two rattles that pop up every now and then, but nothing major. So on that sense, you can be, I think, very relaxed that the car will age nicely and you won't have a Volvo-like amount of rattles. Yes, ultimately it does sound good. The biggest issue that I have is that I really need to push the throttle hard in order to hear anything. Now in second gear, before it was first gear. And to answer your question, yeah, it's good for the weekly shop too. Now that you've watched the most entertaining part of this video, let me run you through some of the specs of this car. Let me just open the bonnet. Wow, one hood strut. Is that weight saving or cost cutting? This here is a magnificent 4.8 liter V8. I do think it is a Porsche design. It produces 500 horsepower, 700 Newton meters, and it's made it to a not so good driving quickly, but very good driving slowly, 8-speed gearbox. It is all-wheel drive all the time. This car is, from what I could find, 2,240 kilos, around that weight, which is so much. But this 500 horsepower and 700 Newton meter engine has no power picking up the tab and moving this car forward. It is very good at driving in a straight line. It has plenty of go. These 500 horsepower along with the 2.2 tons, it means that this car can get to 0 to 100 in roughly 4.7 seconds. At least that's what Porsche claims. Stepping inside this car, so I'm not sure if there were any other seats available at the time. These do feel like a very sporty seat. They have this little bulge over here that you do notice a lot while getting in and out of the car. It is simply designed to hold you in place while driving fast. Driving position. It is very good. It is a good driving position. All the controls are where you'd expect them to be. I do have a very big dislike with the driving position, which is the steering. It is not centered with the driver, so the steering is slightly offset. That happens with plenty of cars. I just didn't expect this to happen with a Porsche as well. Everywhere is covered in leather, the doors from top to bottom, the dash, the bottom part of the dash as well, the center console. At the time, Porsche decided to go mad with buttons, which in hindsight, I do prefer buttons to everything concentrated on a touchscreen, but it is the way it is. You have your climate control up here, your mode selection down here, and the PCM above. The owner, he installed a Mr. 12-volt system, which means this car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It is good enough. It isn't brilliant. Touch isn't all that responsive. It works 80% of the time. Graphics are relatively okay. Screen size is enough. Ultimately, it is a very good upgrade to have CarPlay. Since this is a Cayenne, this is the daddy, along with the Panamera and the 911. It has 5 dials with all the info you could have: water temperature, fuel, oil pressure, oil temperature, tach in the middle, and speedo. And then you have this little pod right here, which is a multi-function screen that shows you all sorts of stuff. You can tell that it is relatively low quality. It is somewhat pixelated. It is not up to par. This steering, I said that I had a minor gripe with the steering being off center, but my biggest gripe is with the actual steering. First, I don't think it looks all that nice. Second, it's got buttons, and sometimes when you're turning the steering, you do end up putting the volume up and down because these are rotating buttons. And lastly, it has these switches for gear changes, which I think it's ridiculous. Porsche used to do this back in the day, in the 997, for example, where they had a rocker switch, which was even worse, I think. And then they transitioned to this, but not really, because they also introduced paddles with the PDK at the time, but they also had this system for God knows who. If this car had the paddles, it would be much, much better, because this system, it feels cheap, it is bad to use, I don't like it at all. And the gearbox as well here, you can put it in manual mode, but the orientation of going up and down the gears, it is wrong side up. Other than that, you have these little handles, which the Cayenne range has used us to, so that your passenger can grab onto your life. But overall, this cabin is a very nice place to be. Alcantara headliner, very nicely done. The seats, these seats, they are relatively comfortable. They are not super comfortable. I've been in better seats. They do hold you tight. They have multiple adjustments. They have lumbar. They have this little thigh extender as well. So they have multiple adjustment. I think you will be able to find a position that you like. Steering column, electric as well. So overall, a very, very nice place to be. An honorable mention as well, these speakers, they are Bose. And there's that saying that no highs, no lows, must be Bose or something like that. Not sure. But these speakers, they are very, very good. I like them very much. I've been listening to some music while driving, and they do a terrific job at keeping your ears entertained. This is my first time sitting back here. The front seat, it is set up for me. I am, again, 188 centimeters or 6'2" more or less. And I mean, I have plenty of knee room. My feet, they can fit below my seat. I do touch the seat, so it's not all that pleasurable. It is a nice place to be. You can see here this handle, because this car, it's also got reclining seats. So you can actually recline the seat for more comfort. So this is the most upright position, and this is with it reclined. This is a very nice place. I would spend ashtray. Wow, okay. For the kids. I would travel great distances in the back of this car, actually no problem. It is very comfortable. You've got an armrest right here as well. The only gripe is that it has the cup holders that are exposed. So when you're not using the cup holders, your elbow kind of falls into the cup holder, which is not ideal. This door card does fit a nice bottle as well, and it's also lined in leather. So this car, so I wonder how many cows actually died to have this full interior in leather. Here I can see that it's crappy plastic. They should not have cheaped out on this. As I've already mentioned, it is a very nice place to be. And if you end up getting this car, your passengers will not be disappointed. Last but not least, the trunk, which is, it is electric, as one would expect, and it is quite big. I must admit that it's not as big as I would expect. Nonetheless, it is still a very big trunk. You've got plenty of room. You've also got these little nets right here to hold more stuff. What's here? Your first aid kit and this little cover to keep your things out of prying eyes. But overall, it is a very, very decent trunk area. After having driven this car now for what I consider quite some time, over a few days, and I also want to say thank you to my friend for lending me and trusting me with his car. I do think that I have some knowledge about it that I can share with you. If you've paid attention to my video, you'll probably already know this, but let me just give you my likes, dislikes, and summarize a little bit my experience. Starting with my dislikes, I really did not like how the car drives while going fast, and the fact that it does not entice you to actually drive it fast. We have here, yes, it's an SUV, I know. It is still a 500 horsepower, the daddy of Cayennes. I just don't like the way that it drives quickly on a twisty road. I do enjoy how it moves forward in a straight line very quickly. It is a very fast car. It is very safe to drive because it is so fast. It doesn't really get boring, the power. And you also have this little V8 melody coming from the exhaust. Another thing that I don't like is the fact that this car has 200,000 euro when new car running costs. So yes, you can get one of these anywhere from 40 to 60,000 roughly. But the thing is, Porsche tax is real. Parts are going to be expensive. You have a 500 horsepower V8 that's going to need maintenance eventually. And I was looking at the engine bay. Everything seems really cramped in there. So I do imagine that working on this car is a bit tricky. I do think that my sort of last dislike, but it's a big one, is the fact that this car is very good. Yes, make no mistakes about it. And these people, they are going 20 kilometers per hour. Wow. That's why you need power, to overtake cyclists. Don't get me wrong, it is a very good car, but I do not feel like it excels at anything. Driving slowly, a Range Rover is more comfortable. Driving fast, I'm not sure what can be better than this, especially at the time, since there weren't many of these SUVs with ludicrous amounts of power. Perhaps an X5M is better than this. Driving slow, not sure. The reality is that I've struggled to connect with this car. Yes, it is very potent. Yes, it is very good to drive on a regular basis, but I do feel like it sacrifices being really good at the mundane to be not all that good at driving fast. So you are compromising, but you are not getting in return what you're compromising for. I don't know if I'm making myself understood. Positives. I do like the badge appeal. You are driving a Porsche. You are driving something that, in theory, is reliable. You are driving something that you can feel has good quality, will probably last you a long time. The second like is the stupid amount of power and torque that it has. So 500 horsepower. 15 years ago, it was a lot. It is still a lot today, but now we are living in the world of 1500 horsepower cars. So 500 it seems kind of meh, but no, it is a tremendous amount of power. Another like, it is the V8. You have a V8 that's always available to you, and it does sound interesting. I completely forgot about these two dislikes, which to me they are probably one of the main reasons why I'm not enjoying this car as much as I thought I would. Gearbox. It is good just driving regularly, but when you are driving quickly, it is neither good doing manual work, nor is it good at understanding what gear the car should be, as well as these paddles. So to me, this is all inside the same package. Paddles and gearbox, they are utter rubbish when you want to drive this car the least bit quickly. When you need the car to actually behave like a Porsche, the gearbox just says, nah, not really, I quit. And the other very big dislike to me is the fact that you have a 500 horsepower V8 under the bonnet, and I can barely hear it. When I floor it, yes, I can hear the V8 melody coming through, but just driving along regularly, you basically can't hear anything, and it's a shame. I do remember this vividly. When I drove the SVR, that car was so entertaining because it was always making noises, V8 noises that excite you. And I mean, basically, it's a dying breed. They are getting tougher and tougher to build, and noise regulations, emission regulations, they're making sure that the V8 will not live much longer. At least that's what we think. But realistically, if this car had a little bit more sound, that would absolutely transform the experience, in my opinion. Another like that I have is that everything is very well laid out. Dials, they are very easy to read. Everything is where you'd expect it to be, so you are being taken care of on an everyday basis. And it's a very nice place to be, don't get me wrong. I know I'm kind of being harsh on this car, but I'm not being harsh. I'm just speaking out my actual opinion from living with this car. Another thing that I really like about this car is that when you need to overtake, when you need to do something that the engine is required to give you a lot of power and the gearbox, it needs to think quickly, it does get a move on very, very quickly actually. When you press that kick down button, things start happening and the car starts moving. It is a very entertaining car to drive in that aspect. One other like that I must mention, I already mentioned before, but the sound system. Sound system is very, very good. What you don't get in terms of exhaust noise, you can get in terms of quality sound from the speakers. Although I still keep my point, this car does need to make more noise. I do apologize if I'm coming out a little bit negative about this car. Make no mistake, this is one of Porsche's flagships. It is a very good car. However, I am struggling to find a connection with it because it does lack some features that spark my interest in a car, especially a Porsche. Sound, driving quickly, all of those. You do get a comfortable car, but as I said, it's not super comfortable. It is very comfortable, yes, but it's not as comfortable as a Range Rover, for example. So, who is this car for? That's what I keep thinking about, because you can pick one of these up for 45, 50,000. Then you have the running costs of a 200,000 euro car. I'm guessing that it's for someone who wants to have what Porsche did best 15 years ago. It is still a very potent car. It is still a very safe car. It is a car that you can do very big journeys in, and it will most likely get you back home safely. What I can say is that perhaps a Cayenne S fully loaded will give you the majority of the experience, not as much power obviously, which is a nice feature of this car, but at a lower cost. And that's what keeps popping up in the back of my mind. Why would I have such a powerful car if I can't even hear the V8 do its thing? It's a very sad situation. Perhaps the GTS is a better option in that sense. It is perhaps more driver oriented than the Turbo. The Turbo, perhaps it's to cater to an older gentleman that wants the best of the best and wants to tell his friends, I got the Turbo, yes. So you can flex on your Cayenne S friends since you have a Turbo. If I had the money to buy one of these cars, would I? I don't think I would, actually, no. The car is very good. There is definitely a market for this car. I just don't see myself buying this car after having lived with it. There are some things that can be fixed, but other things cannot be fixed, like the gearbox. And I think perhaps I would look at something a little bit more comfortable, more daily oriented than this car. Would I miss the power? Yes, probably. At the end of the day, I do think that this car does not fit my criteria for what I want from a car. With that said, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, please do consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone who might enjoy it as well. And I'll see you on the next one.